Internal Revenue Service IRS Tax News. Financial safety is an important part of disaster preparedness. IRS Tax Tip 2020-99, August 10, 2020. Before a natural disaster strikes, taxpayers are encouraged to prepare. There's a link to prepare here if possible. This includes developing evacuation plans, putting together kits of essential supplies, and putting financial safety measures in place. To help protect their financial safety in a disaster situation, taxpayers should update emergency plans. A disaster can strike at any time. Personal and business situations are constantly evolving, so taxpayers should review their emergency plans annually. Create electronic copies of documents. Taxpayers should keep documents in a safe place. This includes bank statements, tax returns, and insurance policies. This is especially easy now since many financial institutions provide statements and documents electronically. If original documents are available only a paper, taxpayers can use a scanner and save them on USB flash drive, CD, or in the cloud. So obviously we want to keep those documentations that we're going to need for a few years, including the tax documentation and the banking information. If you can get that from the bank, typically we're going to get that in an electronic format, oftentimes in a PDF type of format. But even if you get the paper document, you can get a scanner pretty cheaply, or even a scanner on the phone where you take a picture of the document and it transfers it into a PDF file as opposed to a picture or JPEG type file. And you can use that then to save or store your data. And then, of course, you got to make sure that you have a good safeguarding place to save the data and possibly a backup system in order to do so. But it should be easier in terms of storage space to save the documents these days. Back to the text. Document valuables. Documenting valuables by photographing or videotaping them before disasters strike make it easier to claim insurance and tax benefits if necessary. IRS.gov has a disaster loss workbook. There's a link to that here that can help taxpayers compile a room-by-room list of belongings. So if you have insurance, then of course you want to basically be able to document the stuff that you have, which would mean to write it down and to take a picture of it and videotape it possibly so that you can then prove the quality or the condition of those items so that if there is a problem, you can provide that information to the insurance company, hopefully making it easier to get paid or get money from the insurance company to compensate for the loss. Back to the text. Know what tax relief is available in disaster situations. Information on disaster assistance and emergency relief for individuals and businesses, there's a link to that here, is available on irs.gov. Taxpayers should also review the itemized deduction for casualty and theft losses. There's a link to that here. Net personal casualty and theft losses are deductible only to the extent they're attributable to a federally declared disaster. Claims must include the FEMA code assigned to the disaster. And notice that has changed relatively recently, so the deduction for losses has changed relatively recently, so make sure that you understand that the new code or the new law related to it. It's been restricted basically to include specific types of disasters where it was a bit more broad a couple years ago or a few years ago. So that might have changed since last time you take a look at it, so you might want to take a look at that again if it's applicable. Back to the text. Remember, the IRS is ready to help. In the case of a federally declared disaster, people can visit around the nation. There's a link to that here on the irs.gov and click on their state to review the available disaster tax relief. So if you have a question about whether or not you qualify for a disaster relief in this condition for the IRS, then you can check that out on the IRS website. There's a link to that here. There'll be a link to this in the description. Taxpayers who live in counties qualifying for disaster relief receive automatic filing and payment extensions for many currently due tax forms and don't need to contact the agency to get relief. People with disaster-related questions can call the IRS at 866-562-5227 to speak with the IRS specialist trained to handle disaster issues. They can request copies of previously filed tax returns and attachments by filling Form 4506. There's a link to Form 4506 here. Order transcripts showing most line items through Get Transcript. There's a link to that here, so you can get a transcript at Get Transcript. on irs.gov or call 800-908-9946 for transcripts. There's links to more information here down below as well related to these topics. There'll be a link to this in the description.